Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to Toe Tags Metal Reviews. And today we're giving you guys our first impressions of the new albums from Knocked Loose, Unleash the Archers, and 6 Feet Under. So we got 3 totally different albums here today, dropping that we have checked out, and let's just fire right out of the gate with You Won't Go Before You're Supposed To by Knocked Loose. We've checked out and reacted to 3 singles from this album, loved all 3. They were 3 for 3 on incredible singles. The standards and expectations were quite high for this one, but then we learned something about this album before its release which had, I guess, both of us concerned. This album is 27 minutes long.
Short.
Probably the shortest album we've ever covered on this channel. Like, shortest LP. We've covered EPs in the past.
I think we've covered EPs that are longer than this album.
We may have. We honestly may have.
In like the 30-minute range, yeah, like this is short.
It's concerning. So, because, you know, an album can be awesome, but if it's just gone, it's like, oh, what happened? So I was concerned about that going in. That being said, as soon as the first track, Thirst, kicks in, it's like just this explosion out the gate. Like, whoa, okay, it's game on now. But I was a bit concerned when I was listening to the track because they changed grooves up a lot, like quite quickly in this song. And I'm like, I wish they wrote on something, but it keeps changing. And I know they do that a little bit in Blinding Faith, but they don't do it to the same degree. And I thought it was cool in Blinding Faith the way that they did it there.
When you're talking about tracks that are like 3 minutes less and under, though, it's like they got to cram a lot into there. So
that's true.
Things aren't changing at a rapid pace.
These are short tracks. And then I liked Piece by Piece a little bit more. Didn't feel all over the place. But then we get into the first of the 3 singles, and that's Suffocate, which is featuring Poppy. Still love that track. That was an instant playlist track. Blinding Faith was also an instant playlist track for me, but both of those already went in. And I feel the same way about the singles. Like, I still think all 3 of them are amazing. Love them so much. They're super duper cool.
Solid, yeah, I agree.
So I mentioned that Poppy features, you know, on Suffocate. There's a second feature on this album. So there's a song called Slaughterhouse 2, which features Chris Motionless from Motionless in White. What's really cool about this is that on the most recent Motionless in White album, there's a song called Slaughterhouse featuring Brian from this band. So they had a cool trade. I need to listen to Slaughterhouse again to see how much resemblance there is.
There's some. Yeah.
Okay, you checked it out?
There's some. Yeah, I checked it out, and there's some, and I feel like that's really cool too. That
really cool.
That basically the sequel to the first song is on another band's album, but they cross-reference each other with features.
Yeah.
Never seen that before.
No, yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Speaking of things that we haven't seen before, there is I'm going to say this with quotations, interlude. The song is called Moss Covers All. It's like 45 seconds.
46 exactly.
46 seconds. And it's kind of like, when I wrote this in my note as like a not interlude because it's, you know, less than a minute, but the band is playing, like they're doing stuff.
Yeah.
But listening to it, it bridges the gap between Don't Reach For Me and Take Me Home. Like, almost as if all 3 of those tracks are like one song. Like, it just flows. Connected. All 3, they're connected. And we've seen interludes connect tracks like that, but we haven't seen it with the band performing throughout that interlude track.
Yeah, and that makes it unique. And it stood out to me too. And it almost felt like, even though it's only 46 seconds and it bridges the gap between the song before and after, it almost feels like its own mini song in a way too.
Yeah.
It has a kind of, you know, it's music. It's not just random noises or stuff happening like a lot of interludes. It's music.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's really cool. And it's cool that we're finding these things on a first listen because, like I said, this album's 27 minutes long. The fact that we can find stuff that stands out like that for an album so short is very impressive. And that tells you that they went for quality over quantity. Why did we have to make such a long album? We can make it 27 minutes and make it great.
Yeah, the challenge with that is reviewing albums that are that short is a challenge.
It can be.
But from my first impression, I thought this album was pretty good too. I think the singles were definitely the standout songs still, but they're also the songs that I'm more familiar with because we've already checked them out. I've already heard them a few times. So it's going to be interesting going forward what the other songs, if they reach out to me or not. But the Slaughterhouse 2 I thought was a pretty good song with Chris Motionless. I enjoyed that one. I felt like Take Me Home, which is the song that comes after the interlude track, gave me a lot of self-titled Slipknot vibes. Not in the sense that it was like, it was more like the experimental stuff that Slipknot was doing at that time. Like the creepy, eerie stuff and those kinds of things. This had that kind of vibe on it, and I thought it was pretty cool. But the song does a lot of different things and goes a lot of different places in the short time of just over 2 minutes. Yeah. Like, there's a lot they pack into these songs, but as you mentioned, maybe they don't ride grooves long enough, and maybe they transition too fast or too much. That could possibly be a problem, perhaps, but maybe also not. I don't know. Another thing that I noticed about this, and I could be completely wrong, but I felt like I was hearing steel drums, like maybe a steel snare or something to that effect. Could be wrong about that, but there was something about the percussion that sounded extra pingy. Yeah. And it's not a bad thing. I actually liked it, and it gave it kind of a very like a ringing, it kind of rang out, right? That kind of thing.
I mean, that's something definitely that's leaned towards in these genres, like hardcore and even some aspects of deathcore. Like that general ballpark likes to use kind of ringing drums. They'll use a steel snare.
This one felt exceptional though, like felt exceptionally on the high end, which I thought was unique and cool as well. So overall, pretty good first impression. My downfall with it is that I was hoping that the other songs would blow me away like the singles did, and they didn't. So I'm a kind of an iffy on it as a whole, but still overall enjoyable. What's next?
So next up, let's talk about Phantoma by Unleash the Archers.
Okay.
This is the first band we have ever covered on this channel.
That's true.
We reviewed Apex, very first thing we ever did on this channel.
Yeah, fun fact.
And then we also checked out Abyss when that came out 4 years ago. We enjoyed both of those albums.
Yes.
But we were concerned coming into this one. We reacted to a few music videos,
right?
And we noticed that this band was taking a little bit of a different direction for themselves, and we're like, I don't really know how that's gonna play out. Kind of concerned, a little bit worried. And I feel like in some aspects, I kind of like what they did, but in a lot of aspects, it kind of just missed the mark. I will say, Human Era, which is the intro track, I like the vibe that they had there, and I feel like it's a cool intro to the story, and I tried to keep in mind, like, this band is experimenting right now, and I totally respect when bands try to do something different, when they're like, let's try something. It could work out and be amazing, or it could totally not work out and crash and burn. Like, it's a risk to take, but I can respect bands for trying. The title track is not the craziest, but it sounds more like what I enjoy from this band. You know, I feel like the energy was more so there, and I like that. And I also felt that way with The Collective. That one has more bite to it. The harshes that come in the second half, and then they go to the solo section, super duper cool. Stuff like that is what I like from this band. But I feel like towards the second half is when this album kind of starts to fall apart for me. So Green and Glass is kind of... I remember we were kind of like, I don't know, like, interesting after we reacted to it.
We were very unsure.
Very unsure, and I feel like it works a bit better being after a song like The Collective, like tonally.
Yeah.
I feel like it kind of makes it feel less kind of out of place, but at the same time, I'm not sure how I really feel about that hook. They do like the easy bake oven key change, which I am not a fan of when it's that just like, oh, of course, they go up a step. But then, you know, a problem came about this album in a song called Give It Up or Give It All. This is the ballad of the album. It is the longest song at 7:35.
7.5 minute long snorefest.
I don't know, like, I'm listening to this song, I'm like, why is this so long? Especially because when you have a song like this, it should be like the second last track, and then you go out with like super duper fire out the gate for the final track, right? But there's like 4 tracks after this one. So it's like, why is this still going? What are they doing? And nothing after that really brings the energy properly back up. So it just kind of feels like in the second half of the album, it kind of meanders around the same kind of tone, and then just kind of just leaves. And that's just kind of it. And I wasn't really huge on that second half there. It just kind of missed in that regard. But like I said, I can respect that they tried something different. Didn't really work out. There were a few songs that I liked, but I don't think this album is as good as their previous work.
Yeah, I want to just piggyback off the Give It Up or Give It All being probably the lowest point of the album. And for me, that's a low point amongst a bunch of other songs that were kind of in the dumps. Like, I was pretty disappointed in this, and that sucks because I'm a fan of this band. I've said that before. I've been looking forward to this album. Yes, the singles had me scared, but I was still hopeful. I thought the singles were going to be outliers, and I thought they'd bring the heat and bring the passion and bring the energy with some of the other songs. And I feel like they just didn't do that. Now, the point you made about respecting people's decisions and all that stuff, I 100% agree with that. They're doing something, they're doing what they feel like doing, what's working for them, what their passion is, and I respect that totally. Unfortunately, it doesn't work for me. And I feel like I'm having a similar feeling to this as I did with Beast in Black, because Beast in Black came out on the scene and they slayed. And they had like an album or two that were good.
That first album was super killer.
Super killer. And then they come out with something that's just like, what the hell is this? You're changing your whole sound. That's kind of what this did. And I felt like there was a lot of like 80s synthwave type of influence on this album as well, which kind of goes hand in hand with the robotic AI kind of
the
theme.
whole concept of like the whole story, it makes sense thematically why they would do that.
Yeah, so I felt like that was kind of a thing they were going for. And Beast in Black did the same thing. They went kind of with like an 80s synthwave, electronic-y kind of thing. That didn't work for me. I was like, you know, I can deal with this if it's a song or two, but not if it's the whole album. And another thing that bothered me was I felt like all of these songs were just mid-tempo. Just mid-tempo, kind of easy mode. There were some a little faster than others, but I consider this band to be in the power metal genre. Yeah. At least they're, you know, they touch on that.
That's what I would call them.
Power metal, well, heavy metal, power metal, whatever. But to me, power metal is one of the speedier genres, right? There's typically, you know, some fast double bass and some fast energy and some high tempos. I don't feel like they offered that here. Mm-hmm. And I feel like as a fan of the band, they let me down. So it's unfortunate. I hate talking poorly about any album, especially of a band that I am a fan.
Yeah. So
I don't take pleasure in saying bad things about it, but after spinning it a couple times today, I just did not take much positive away from it at all. Mm-hmm. Brittany sounds good.
She always sounds good.
She always sounds good. She's got pipes, right? The harsh vocals also sound great. They were highlights. The guitar solos and stuff were good. There are some positive takeaways.
Yeah.
But do any of these songs go on my playlist? No. Right? I'll listen to it again later on in the year with a fresh mind and see what happens. But for now, this was a catastrophe for me.
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
So, Killing for Revenge by 6 Feet Under is the last album that we checked out today. This is our first time covering 6 Feet Under on the channel.
In total, or?
I think just in general. I don't think we
haven't done a reaction?
I don't think so. And maybe we did, maybe one, if any.
I think maybe we thought about doing one and then we looked at it and was like a lyric video or something, so we didn't do it.
Maybe maybe we checked it out, but we didn't record it.
Because I thought Ascension was a single they dropped, and I recognized it, and I was like, oh, we must have reacted to that. Maybe we just listened to it and didn't react. I don't know.
I mean, Ascension by Doth was a track that we checked out.
No, this song specifically, I remembered. Yeah. I remembered it. When it came on here, I was like, oh yeah, I've heard this before.
It was new for me. Either way, this is our first time checking out an album from this band on the channel. And, you know, I know, like, and I've heard a little bit of 6 Feet Under here and there. Obviously, the biggest thing is, like, Chris Barnes' voice. Can you handle it? I feel like I can handle it on this record. I feel like it didn't ruin the album for me. Because I feel like, you know, there's been a lot of death metal coming out this year. I feel like this, musically, is one of the better albums. And my biggest reason for that is that they do a lot of different stuff throughout the album. It doesn't sound like one song like 10 times.
Because that's a good point.
There's a lot of death metal that does that, where it's like, yeah, this is good death metal for people who like death metal, but there's not much content to really extract.
Yeah, there's not a lot of variation.
I feel like here, they do different riffs, different ideas. It's all still like brutal, heavy death metal. So it's cool that they have that musically. Vocally, I don't mind Chris Barnes on the songs. Obviously, like, he's got this like weird grunty style of harsh vocals, but it didn't really ruin anything. Obviously, it's something that could be improved, in my opinion.
He's not going to improve. He's just been like
okay,
that.
No, I know that's just what he sounds like. I'm just saying, if we're going to talk critically, if there's anything I would choose that could be better, it is that, but it doesn't ruin anything. So let's talk a little bit about some songs here.
All right.
Right at the start, No Nothing Ingrate had a pretty cool riff to open up. And I also noticed that it's interesting that you mentioned for Knock Loose how much ring there was in the snare drum. I noticed that in this album. I don't know if you heard that, but there was some ring out of the snare drum from this record, and I liked that. You could hear a little bit of the high tones from there, which is pretty cool. When the moon goes down in blood, it's got this cool 6/8 intro that they incorporate into the main riff, which I thought was pretty cool. And stuff like that is why I think musically this is one of the stronger death metal releases of the year, because they have cool takeaways like that.
You didn't find that they were just riding the same riff for like multiple bars? Like I understand what you're saying, how the songs all had their own kind of thing going on, but I felt like they would play a riff and it would just almost loop like too much, and it felt like simple riffs, and I'm like, okay, like this is like to get on with it. That's kind of the way I was feeling about it.
Not entirely, but I mean, at the same time, it's like, it feels old school in the sense of like, let's run on this riff for a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like that's in the style, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's just the riffs that they are doing are good.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a difference between like whatever death metal flash beat groove that these guys do for like 2 minutes versus like, wow, this is a cool like jamming groove.
Got some catchiness to it.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think Neanderthal probably has the best guitar solo I heard on the record. At least that one, it was good enough for me to make a note about it, where I'm like, wow, that's a sick solo. I like that a lot.
Okay.
But yeah, overall, like it was pretty good. Like
Better than you thought it was going to be, probably.
Far better than I thought it was going to be. I was going into this thinking like, oh, I don't know, Chris Barnes, the voice. And then I listened to it, I'm like, that's not bad at all. Not really. Like, the voice might leave some, to be desired, but it didn't really ruin the record.
Yeah, I would wager that I probably have more experience with this band than you do. So this was pretty much exactly what I expected. I'm not the biggest 6 Feet Under fan, never have been, but I like some of their stuff. And yeah, this is pretty much par for the course as far as the stuff that I am familiar with. Yeah, the riffs are good, they're catchy. I feel like they play them too long. The vocals are the hurdle, man. They're always going to be the hurdle. It's
the challenge.
And it's not even the voice. I think the voice is actually good. It's the timing of the phrasing that gets me. Because Chris Barnes has a tendency to go slightly off time with his phrasing. Like when he's supposed to stop a word or whatever, he goes for like a second too long and then starts the next phrase late. And he does stuff like this often. And I don't know if it's intentional, if he just has bad ear for it or something, I don't know. But it's something that you either have to learn to love, or you don't notice it, or you're gonna fucking hate it because it just doesn't sound right. With that said, one thing I noticed about this album, and I just don't remember if this is common with this band, is that this is very thrashy. I felt like there was a lot of very thrashy beats, a lot of very thrashy riffs. If you take songs like Fit of Carnage, this one I felt was a very thrashy song. Then you get Judgment Day. I had instant Slayer vibes on this song. Now, Slayer is one of those bands that are considered a thrash band, but they do bridge and touch on death metal a lot of the time. So you can see that there's kind of a connection and kind of a crossover there. But when you're instantly reminded of a thrash band, then you gotta wonder, like, what are they doing that's thrashy? Well, it's the beats and the riffs. I thought that was cool because this band is considered, to my knowledge, a death metal band. So I like when and that's probably part of the reason why you said a lot of these songs sound different, because they're not just playing the standard, straightforward death metal.
Yeah.
They're actually sprinkling in little elements of other genres. Or maybe just another genre, not other genres. But I did enjoy it for the most part. The solos, like you mentioned, were pretty good. Yeah, it's solos, riffs, and just energy, man. That's basically what it is. But yeah, pretty enjoyable. Didn't hate it, didn't love it. I don't know if I'll add any of the songs to my playlist, but it was pretty good. I think it's a decent album for people to check out.
So with that being said, we are going to review You Won't Go Before You're Supposed to by Knock Loose, and it's going to be a really interesting experience because it'll be the shortest album we've ever reviewed. And we're going to listen to this album over and over nonstop throughout the
a lot
entire
of
week.
spins just because it's that short.
Exactly.
That means it's probably going to end up on the Spotify Wrapped at the end of the year by default.
Yeah, there's no way it won't. There's no way that this album's not going to be on both of our Spotify Wrapped because it's going to
get played so much.
Exactly. Anyway, guys, that's all we got for you today. Remember to like the video if you liked it, and tell us in the comments below, what did you enjoy from today's new releases? What are you into? What are you spinning this weekend? We'd love to hear what you guys have to say, and subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. I'm TV Fish.
And I'm Vile Self.
We'll see you guys later.